Life can feel like an uphill battle, can it? You're pushing, striving, and sometimes no matter how hard you try, the path ahead seems blocked. But let me tell you something, God's got a plan. When the road looks impossible, when doors slam shut, that's when his power steps in. You might not see the way now, but he's working behind the scenes, paving paths you never imagined. Keep your faith strong, keep moving forward. Because when God makes a way, nothing can stop it. Get ready for the breakthrough, your time is coming. There are moments in life when it feels like you're waiting for something to shift, waiting for the breakthrough you've been praying for. And let's be real, it's hard. Waiting isn't easy. Patience can be one of the toughest things to hold on to when you're surrounded by obstacles, when every door you knock on seems to stay closed, when opportunities seem scarce. But here's what we need to understand, everything happens in its time. Not just any time, but God's time. It's natural to want things to happen on our schedule. We're wired to expect immediate results, especially in today's world where everything moves so fast. But God's timing isn't like that. His timing is perfect, even if it doesn't always align with what we think we need in the moment. You might have doors closing in your face, and you're wondering why. You might feel stuck, as if you're spinning your wheels and not moving forward. But I want you to know that just because you can't see it right now doesn't mean something isn't happening behind the scenes. God knows the right time to open those doors. He knows what you need before you even realize it yourself. You see, sometimes we're so focused on what we want, on what seems like the best path for us, that we overlook the bigger picture. We get frustrated because things aren't happening when we think they should. But what we often don't realize is that delays, setbacks, and closed doors are part of the process. They're not the end of the road, they're just God's way of redirecting you towards something greater. In those moments of waiting, of feeling like nothing is moving, it's important to trust that God is preparing you. Sometimes you're not ready for the doors you want to open. Sometimes there's growth that needs to happen, lessons that need to be learned before you can step into the next phase of your journey. When God finally opens that door, it's going to be the right one, and it's going to come at the right time. But here's the key, you've got to trust the process. You've got to trust that even when it seems like everything is at a standstill, God is moving. He's aligning the right people, the right opportunities, the right circumstances to come together in a way that you couldn't possibly orchestrate on your own. And when that door finally opens, it's not just going to be any door, it's going to be the one that leads to something far beyond what you imagined. Now, I know waiting can make you feel impatient, and it can make you doubt. You might start thinking that maybe this door won't open, maybe it's not meant for you, maybe it's just not going to happen. But let me tell you, when you trust God's timing, you've got to hold on to your faith, even when it doesn't make sense. You've got to believe that He's working, even when it feels like nothing is moving. There are so many examples in life where the timing didn't seem right, but it turned out to be perfect. Think about those moments when you look back and realize that if things had happened on your terms, it wouldn't have worked out the way it needed to. Sometimes that waiting period, that season where everything seems uncertain, is the very thing that prepares you for what's coming. You're being positioned for something greater. And sometimes that takes time. Sometimes the doors that don't open right away are the very doors that need more time to be built. They're not ready for you yet, or you're not ready for them. But when that moment comes, when everything aligns, you're going to walk through with confidence, knowing that you didn't rush the process. You allowed God to take the lead, to guide you to open the right door at the right time. That's why it's so important to be patient, even when the road feels long. When you trust God's timing, you're not just waiting passively. No, you're actively preparing, actively working on yourself, actively growing in faith. You're readying yourself for what's to come, because when that door opens, it's going to require you to step up, to walk into a new level of purpose, a new level of opportunity, a new level of challenge. You might not understand why things are happening the way they are right now, but that's okay. You don't need to understand everything. All you need to do is trust that God knows what He's doing. He's not making you wait to punish you. He's making you wait because He's crafting something far better than you could ever dream of. And when you look back, you're going to see how every delay, every setback, every closed door was actually setting you up for something even greater. There's no need to rush. There's no need to force things. When God is in control, things will happen when they're supposed to. Your job is to stay faithful, to keep believing, to keep doing your part. Keep knocking on doors, keep working hard, keep growing. And in the meantime, trust that God is arranging everything just the way it needs to be. When that door finally swings open, you're going to step into something that's not just good, but extraordinary. It's easy to get discouraged when you've been waiting a long time, but I want to encourage you to stay hopeful, to keep your faith strong. The waiting period isn't wasted time. It's preparation time. It's the season where God is building your character, stretching your faith, and setting the stage for something incredible. You're not just waiting around, you're getting ready for something bigger than you could have ever planned. So when that door opens, and you'll be ready, you'll be prepared to walk into that opportunity, that blessing, that next step in your journey with confidence, knowing that you didn't get here by accident. You didn't stumble into this moment. You trusted, you believed, and you followed God's lead. And that's what makes it all worthwhile, knowing that every step of the way, God was guiding you, opening doors you never even thought possible at exactly the right time. So keep the faith, stay patient, and trust in His perfect timing. Your moment is coming, and when it does, you'll be ready to step through that door into the future He's prepared just for you. Walking in faith isn't always easy. You wake up every day with dreams, hopes, and goals, yet sometimes the road ahead seems foggy, unclear. You can't see your next step, and fear starts creeping in. But walking in faith means trusting God even when you can't see where you're going. It's about knowing deep down in your soul that, despite the uncertainty, God has a plan. It's about moving forward, even when you don't have all the answers, even when the path seems filled with obstacles. When you walk in faith, you're not relying on your own understanding. You're not leaning on what you can figure out or what you can control. You're saying, I don't have to see every step to know that I'm being led in the right direction. Faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting the one who does. Life throws twists and turns, unexpected detours, and moments where everything feels like it's falling apart. In those moments, it's easy to get lost in the confusion and doubt. But that's where faith steps in. Faith is what keeps you moving when the road is tough. It's what gives you strength when you're tired, when you've been knocked down, and you don't know how you're going to get back up. Faith tells you that even though you can't see the destination, the journey is worth it. You may not know how things will unfold, but you trust that God has a purpose for every step, even the ones that don't make sense right now. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to understand everything, trying to figure out the why and the how, that we forget to simply trust. You're not always going to understand why certain things happen, why doors close, or why life takes you on a detour you didn't expect. But faith is what allows you to keep moving, to keep walking, even when the path ahead is shrouded in mystery. It's easy to walk in faith when everything is going smoothly, when life is on track and the future looks bright. But true faith shows up when things are uncertain, when you're walking through the valley, not the mountaintop. It's in those moments when the world feels heavy and the way forward is unclear, that your faith is truly tested. Will you still trust God's plan even when you don't understand it? Will you keep walking even when you can't see the road ahead? Faith is the anchor that holds you steady in the storm. It keeps you grounded when life's winds try to knock you off course. Walking in faith means being willing to step forward, even when you're not sure where your foot is going to land. It's trusting that God will place solid ground beneath you, even when all you see is uncertainty. It's about letting go of the need to control everything and embracing the journey, knowing that God is guiding you every step of the way. There's a peace that comes with walking in faith. It's not about being free from challenges or hardships. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, you're not walking alone. God is with you, guiding you, leading you when you can't see the whole picture. He sees what you cannot. He knows what lies ahead. And because of that, you can walk in confidence even in the darkest moments. Walking in faith doesn't mean you won't face obstacles. In fact, there will be times when the challenges seem insurmountable, when you feel like giving up. But faith is what keeps you moving forward. It's what gives you the strength to rise above the doubts, the fears, and the uncertainties. It's what reminds you that there is a greater plan at work, one that you might not see yet, but one that is unfolding perfectly in God's time. Every step you take in faith brings you closer to the purpose God has for you. Life is full of obstacles. You hit a roadblock, face a setback, and suddenly everything feels like it's falling apart. It's easy to get discouraged, to wonder why these things are happening to you. But here's the thing, those obstacles, those setbacks, they aren't there to stop you. They're there to strengthen you. God has a way of using what looks like a setback and turning it into a stepping stone, something that will elevate you to a new level in life. You see, we all face challenges. Whether it's in our careers, our relationships, or our personal growth, there are going to be moments where things don't go as planned. Doors that you thought would open stay shut. Dreams that you've been chasing seem to slip further away. But those moments of setback aren't the end. They're a part of the journey. And if you keep your faith strong, if you stay resilient, God will use those very obstacles to lead you to something greater. Think about it. When you're faced with a setback, it's easy to feel like everything is going wrong. But often that's when God is working the most in your life. He's taking what seems like a failure and using it to build your character, to develop your strength, to deepen your faith. It's in those tough times that you learn what you're really made of. It's in those moments that you discover how strong your faith is, how determined you are to keep going, even when the odds are stacked against you. Setbacks can feel heavy, but they're also opportunities. They're opportunities for growth, for learning, for becoming more resilient. You might not see it in the moment, but every obstacle you face is shaping you for something greater. It's preparing you for the next step in your journey. And when you trust in God, when you believe that He has a plan, even in the midst of the storm, you can face those obstacles with a sense of purpose, knowing that they're not the end, they're just the beginning of something new. Let's not forget, setbacks aren't permanent. They might feel like they are when you're in the middle of them, but they're temporary. What feels like a detour is actually a redirection. What looks like a delay is just God's way of making sure you're ready for what's coming next. Sometimes the things we think are setbacks are actually setups for something even bigger, something even better than we imagined. God knows what's around the corner, and He's using every moment, every challenge to prepare you for it. But here's the key: you've got to trust the process. You've got to keep moving forward, even when it's hard. Even when it feels like you're taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Because faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about believing that God is turning those setbacks into stepping stones, even when you can't see the whole picture yet. When you look at the stories of people who've accomplished great things, you'll find that most of them didn't have a smooth path. They faced obstacles, they experienced setbacks, but they didn't let those moments define them. Instead, they used those challenges as fuel to keep going. They trusted that every setback was part of a larger plan, part of a journey that was leading them to something greater. And the same is true for you. You might be in the middle of a storm right now. You might be facing a setback that feels impossible to overcome. But I'm here to tell you, this is not the end. God has a way of taking what was meant to hold you back and using it to propel you forward. He takes the broken pieces and creates something beautiful. He turns the obstacles in your life into opportunities for growth, for learning, for stepping into your purpose. It's all about perspective. When you face an obstacle, you can either see it as something that's there to stop you, or you can see it as something that's there to strengthen you. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. And when you choose to trust God, when you choose to believe that He's working even in the midst of your challenges, you'll start to see those obstacles differently. You'll start to see them as stepping stones, as part of the path that's leading you to your destiny. So when you face a setback, don't get discouraged. Don't let it make you doubt your purpose or your path. Instead, take a step back and ask yourself, what is this obstacle teaching me? How is it helping me grow? How is it preparing me for what's next? Because every challenge you face is shaping you, molding you, refining you for the future that God has planned. And when you come out on the other side of that obstacle, when you've turned that setback into a stepping stone, you'll be stronger. You'll be wiser. You'll have a deeper sense of faith and purpose. You'll look back and realize that every obstacle, every challenge was necessary for you to become the person you were meant to be. So keep going. Keep walking in faith. Trust that God is using every obstacle, every setback to bring you closer to your purpose. You're not just facing challenges for no reason. There's a plan at work. And when you trust in that plan, when you keep moving forward in faith, you'll start to see how those setbacks were never meant to stop you. They were there to help you rise higher, to push you forward, to guide you into the next chapter of your journey. Remember, obstacles are not the end of the road. They're part of the process. They're part of the journey that's leading you to something greater. And when you trust in God, when you believe that He's working through every challenge, you'll find that those setbacks are just stepping stones to something far bigger than you could have ever imagined. Stay strong, stay faithful, and keep moving forward. God is turning your setbacks into stepping stones for something extraordinary. Life will throw challenges at you, challenges that seem impossible, moments when you're not sure how you're going to make it through. But here's the truth, every challenge you face is part of a larger plan. You might not see it right now, but each trial, each setback, each obstacle is shaping you, preparing you for the purpose God has for your life. He's not leaving you to face these difficulties alone. He's walking with you through every single one, guiding you, strengthening you, and leading you to where you're meant to be. Embracing God's purpose means understanding that your challenges aren't there to defeat you. They're there to develop you, to make you stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the struggle, to feel overwhelmed by the weight of what you're going through. But in those moments, that's when you've got to hold on to your faith. You've got to trust that there's a greater reason for what you're facing, even if you can't see it yet. When you understand that God has a purpose for your life, it changes the way you look at challenges. Instead of seeing them as roadblocks, you start to see them as stepping stones. Every difficulty is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for you to dig deep and discover the strength that God has placed inside of you. You may not realize it, but you are stronger than you think. And with God leading you, there's no challenge too big for you to overcome. It's important to remember that God doesn't promise a life free of challenges. What He promises is that He will be with you through every one of them. He's there in the moments when you feel like you've reached your limit, when you're at the end of your rope. He's there to lift you up, to give you the strength to keep going. Because you're not just fighting these battles on your own. You've got a power with you, guiding you, making a way for you, even when the path seems blocked. One of the most powerful things you can do is to embrace God's purpose for your life, even in the midst of challenges. That means trusting that He has a plan that's bigger than the difficulties you're facing. It means letting go of the need to control everything and trusting that, no matter what happens, God is in control. He sees the bigger picture. He knows the way forward, even when you don't. And when you surrender to His purpose, when you let Him lead you, you'll find that those challenges start to take on a new meaning. Challenges have a way of revealing your purpose. Sometimes the very things you thought were setbacks turn out to be the things that push you closer to your calling. That closed door, that disappointment, that failure, those are the moments that shape you. Those are the moments when God is preparing you for something greater. You may not understand why things are happening the way they are, but if you trust in God's purpose, you'll see that He's using every challenge to bring you to a place you couldn't have reached on your own. It's easy to get discouraged when you're in the middle of a challenge. It's easy to feel like giving up, like the struggle is too much to bear. But I want you to know that God's purpose for your life is bigger than any challenge you're facing. He didn't bring you this far to leave you. He didn't lead you into this season without a plan to bring you through it. There is strength and trust in Him, in knowing that He's got a way out of every situation, even the ones that seem impossible. There's something about walking through challenges with God that transforms you. You start to realize that you're not walking alone. You're not carrying the weight of the world by yourself. God is there, guiding your steps, giving you peace in the midst of the storm, giving you the strength to rise up and keep going. You might not see the way forward, but He does. And as long as you keep your faith in Him, as long as you trust His plan, He will lead you through every challenge you face. Sometimes embracing God's purpose means being patient. It means understanding that His timing isn't always our timing. We want answers now. We want solutions right away, but God works in His own time. And in that waiting, in that in-between space where things feel uncertain, that's where your faith grows. That's where you learn to lean on Him more, to trust Him more deeply. Because when you're facing a challenge and you don't see a way out, that's when God is working behind the scenes, preparing something better than you could have imagined. Don't be afraid of the challenges that come your way. Don't let them make you doubt God's purpose for your life. Instead, embrace them, knowing that each one is an opportunity for you to grow, for you to become stronger in your faith, for you to step into the fullness of who you're meant to be. God didn't place you on this earth without a purpose, and He's not going to let any challenge stop you from fulfilling that purpose. Every challenge you face is part of the journey, and with God leading you, you can walk through it with confidence. You can face those difficulties with the assurance that they are temporary, that they are refining you, shaping you, and preparing you for the blessings to come. It may not be easy, but it will be worth it. Because God is using every challenge to mold you into the person you're meant to be. He's using every obstacle to draw you closer to Him, to deepen your trust in His plan. So when you find yourself in the midst of a challenge, don't lose heart. Don't let it shake your faith. Instead, remember that God is with you, leading you through it. He sees the way forward, even when you don't. And as long as you keep walking in faith, as long as you trust His purpose for your life, He will guide you through every challenge, turning every trial into triumph. Keep moving forward, knowing that God's purpose will always prevail, and He will lead you to where you're meant to be. Life has a way of testing us. It brings moments that stretch us to our limits, times when we feel like we've done all we can, but nothing seems to change. We face doors that won't open, situations that won't shift, and it's easy to feel stuck. But here's what I want you to understand: there is power in persistence. No matter how tough the road gets, no matter how long you've been waiting, if you keep moving forward, trusting that God will make a way, you will see the breakthrough. You will see the path clear. But it starts with your willingness to keep going, even when the results aren't visible yet. Persistence isn't about having all the answers. It's not about knowing exactly how things will work out. It's about trusting that there's something greater at play. You might not see the full picture, but God does. He knows exactly what you need and when you need it. Your job is to stay the course, to remain faithful, and to continue doing what you can with what you've got. Because it's in that persistence, in that faithfulness, that you show your belief in a higher power working on your behalf. There's something remarkable about the way persistence shapes us. Every time you push through the hard moments, every time you keep going when you feel like giving up, you're building strength. You're growing in ways you might not even realize. The waiting, the struggle, the challenges, they're not there to defeat you. They're there to develop you, to make you stronger, to prepare you for what's coming next. And when you persist, when you refuse to quit, you're showing that you believe in more than just the present moment. You're showing that you trust that something better is ahead. Trusting that God will make a way doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for everything to fall into place. It means being active in your faith. It means doing what you can while knowing that God is doing what you can't. It's about finding the balance between action and surrender. You take steps forward, you do your part, but you also trust that God is working behind the scenes in ways you can't see. It's a partnership. Your persistence combined with His power creates the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Sometimes the path forward isn't clear. There are moments when you feel like you're walking in the dark, unsure of where to go next. But that's when your faith has to step in. That's when you have to trust that even though you can't see the way, God already knows it. He's not surprised by the challenges you're facing. He's not caught off guard by the delays or the detours. He's already factored all of that into the plan for your life. And as long as you keep moving forward, as long as you keep trusting that He's making a way, you'll find that the obstacles start to shift. The doors that were once closed begin to open. Persistence is about believing that your current situation is not your final destination. It's about knowing that the challenges you're facing today are temporary. They might feel overwhelming right now, but they will pass. And when they do, you'll be stronger for having gone through them. You'll be more equipped for the next chapter of your life. But the key is to not give up in the middle of the process. The key is to keep going, even when it feels like progress is slow. There's power in not giving up. There's power in continuing to show up day after day, even when you don't see the results you're hoping for yet. Because every step you take, no matter how small, is bringing you closer to the breakthrough. Every moment of persistence is building your character, your strength, and your faith. And it's in those moments that God is working the most. It's in those moments that He's preparing the way forward, aligning the right opportunities, the right people, and the right timing. Trusting that God will make a way means letting go of the need to control every detail. It means releasing the pressure to have everything figured out. You don't need to know how it's all going to come together. You don't need to have a step-by-step plan. All you need is the faith to keep going, one step at a time, trusting that God is guiding your path. It's about believing that even when the road ahead looks uncertain, God is already there. He's already made the way. And all you have to do is keep walking. Persistence doesn't mean that the journey will be easy. There will be moments of frustration, moments when you feel like you've hit a wall. But those are the moments when you've got to dig deep. Those are the moments when you've got to remind yourself of the bigger picture. You've got to remember that every challenge, every setback is part of the process. It's all leading you somewhere. And if you keep pushing, if you keep trusting, you'll see that God is using those challenges to strengthen you, to prepare you for what's next. There's a certain peace that comes with trusting God's timing. When you know that He's in control, you can let go of the worry, the stress, and the anxiety. You can rest in the knowledge that He's working all things together for your good. It might not happen when you want it to, but it will happen in the right time. And when it does, you'll see that every moment of persistence was worth it. You'll see that the challenges you faced were necessary to bring you to the place you're meant to be. So as you move forward, I want you to remember the power of persistence. I want you to know that every step you take, no matter how small, is bringing you closer to the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Trust that God is making a way even when you can't see it. Believe that He's working behind the scenes, aligning everything perfectly for you. And as long as you keep going, as long as you stay persistent, you will see the doors open. You will see the obstacles turn into opportunities. You will see that God's plan for you. As we reach the end of this journey together, I want you to remember one thing: the path may not always be clear, but if you trust, if you persist, God will make a way. Every challenge you face, every obstacle in your path is an opportunity for growth. Don't give up. Keep moving forward, knowing that you are not alone. You have a purpose, and the steps you take today are leading you to something greater. Stay strong, stay faithful, and watch how your persistence will open doors you never thought possible. Thank you.